and welcome to the video. Today, we're going to be talking about the $1,800 Google
Ooh,
Pixel. It's a lot. Google Pixel 9 Pro Fold. Now, in the last video, we reviewed the 9 Pro
the
XL,
9 Pro XL.
right?
Yep.
And in that video, I think we named it the best Pixel ever, right?
Yep.
This, in my opinion, is the most capable Pixel ever.
It is the Pixel ever.
Most expensive, most capable. It's
It is a Pixel, I'll tell you that.
I love this phone. I
Now,
I love the phone.
yeah,
Go
I'm
ahead.
excited because we got to test it out for a few weeks now. And it is only Google's second iteration of a foldable phone. Big difference from the last generation.
Yep.
Some may consider it better, some may consider it worse. It's honestly hit or miss just because there's some things that are really unique about this one that personally I enjoy trying it out. So
I love this phone.
yeah,
It's a lot of fun. So let's get into it.
let's give it a shot. Now let's talk about the design and the build quality because you remember the last generation's Fold, it is very different to this one. They changed things quite a bit. The old one was shorter, it was wider, and when you would open it up, it actually looks like a passport, which some people like that form factor, and that's perfectly fine. But this one is very different. This one they opted in for a more standard feel where if it's closed, it feels like a normal phone. When you're holding it in your hand, you have the same shape, same aspect ratio, and same thickness as a normal phone. So when you have it in your hand, it doesn't feel like you're having this humongous brick that's supposed to be a folded tablet. It's a phone. It feels like a phone. You're not going to be thrown off. If anything, the only thing that throws you off is the fact that the corners are not even. So you have one corner that's sharp and it has a corner that's in like it's pointy. The other one's curved. You get used to that. It's not a big deal. You have polished aluminum on the edges, which is super soft and it feels really nice in your hand. Matte glass in the back. The only thing that's also interesting is the fact that they opted in for a different design for the camera module. If you look at the normal lineup of the Pixel 9 phones, the visor is their standard signature look. This one is not. This one is just opted in for a square module in the corner of the phone, where even on the last fold, it had the visor. So why they changed it, who knows? Does it look bad? No, it doesn't. It still looks pretty good. It's just odd that they changed the style just for this one line of phone. But overall, I think they nailed the experience. The overall shape, size, design, feel, how sturdy it feels when you open it up, they nailed it.
Yeah, no, they definitely did, right? And they also did what I've been saying in every single Z Fold
Oh,
review,
every single
right?
one,
Every
yeah.
single one of them. I've always said just take the cover display and make it the size of one of the phones from the
Right.
S lineup. Doesn't have to be the huge Ultra, but just make it the size of one of them, and that's exactly what Google did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cover display 6.3 inches, same size as the 9 Pro,
Right.
right? And then you open it up to an 8-inch display, which is it's gorgeous, right? The internal
Mm-hmm.
display looks really nice. David's right. The only thing that is going to kind of deviate or it might potentially throw you off as you're just getting acclimated to the phone is on the left hand side of the display, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not perfectly rounded corners. They're a little bit sharper because that's where the, cover display connects to the hinge, right?
Right.
But that's not even
It's
anything.
a small curve.
Yeah, yeah, you
Yeah,
know what I
it's not
mean?
that big of a deal.
So the phone feels great, just as thin as a lot of other slab phones on the market right now,
Right.
and it feels really nice. This
I
phone's
think they
dope.
yeah, I think they did great.
Yeah, no, they nailed it for sure. Now I know I just mentioned that the external or the cover display is the same exact size as what you'd find on a 9 Pro, but interestingly enough, the technologies used on the display are slightly different. So in
Mm-hmm.
terms of resolution, you are getting a slightly lower resolution compared to the 9 Pro.
Yep.
You're going to get slightly lower brightness levels. And in terms of display technology, on the 9 Pro, you're going to find an LTPO display,
Mm-hmm.
and on the Fold here, you're going to find a non LTPO display,
Right.
right? So, in terms of refresh rate, on something like the 9 Pro, you have that very large variable refresh
Mm-hmm.
rate, 1 to 120. On the Fold here, it's 60 to 120. But in terms of quality for the cover display, it's still really, really good, including the brightness levels. They might not match what you'd find on the 9 Pros, but they're only slightly lower, so brightness on this phone is still absolutely fantastic. And of course, the star of the show is whenever you open it up, the gigantic 8-inch display still kind of keeps similar brightness levels compared to the cover display, but
Mm-hmm.
it's absolutely fantastic. And the internal display is where they bring LTPO. So that one
Right.
has the 1 to 120 hertz refresh rate, and everything about the internal display is fantastic. Colors look great, brightness is great, the size of it is great, right?
Oh
Practicality
yeah.
of the phone, it's absolutely fantastic. Consuming media on it is great too. And of course, whenever it comes to a foldable phone, the biggest thing, right, is going to be the hinge.
Right.
So whenever the phone's open, you do kind of slightly feel the hinge as you go across. I would say it's slightly more noticeable than competitors like the Z Fold 6 and the OnePlus Open. But even though this is only Google's second attempt at it, they did really, really good because the crease is not, you know what I mean? It
Right.
doesn't it
Right.
doesn't interrupt the experience. Like that's the big thing, right? So it might be slightly more noticeable, but it still doesn't interrupt the experience at all. And I mean, it's only going to get better
100% agree,
year
and I
after
think
year.
it's
Yeah.
it's one of those things that you kind of expected walking into a device like this one. And the crease, I remember when they first released, I think it was whenever Samsung released a foldable for the first time, everyone made it a big deal, and it kind of was just because we weren't used to something like that.
Hmm.
But now with all these products that are coming out that are foldable, you kind of expect it, and you know what you're walking into, and it's gonna be there. But is it going to stop you from enjoying the phone? No, it's not. And it's one of those things that even when you look at the specs on the external display compared to the 9 Pro and think, why would a cheaper phone have a better display than this expensive phone? And it's not that's not what they're aiming. In my opinion, I think this is where they're coming from because if you use it and you're enjoying something on the external screen, let's say that you're watching a show or you're watching a sporting event, you transition to the internal display, it's seamless. The quality looks very similar, the refresh rate looks very similar, the aspect ratio looks very similar. So not sure if having a higher refresh rate or a better screen on the outside would throw you off, but right now it doesn't. It feels like it's the same thing. The colors look the same, the sharpness looks the same. So the experience is going to be really good because it's smooth and it transitions very well from the outside to the inside screen.
Yeah, on paper it differs in quality, but
Right.
it's still a fantastic cover display
Mhm.
and obviously a world class like leading internal display for
Yeah.
sure.
Now let's talk about something about more financial intake, pun intended, and that is the camera. Because if you look at the numbers, they're gonna throw you off. We're looking at a 48 megapixel for the wide, 10.8 for the telephoto with a 5 times optical zoom, and a 10.5 for the ultra wide. Now they don't sound bad. They're actually pretty good. When you compare them to the 9 Pro line, they're not as good, which it's weird. Doesn't make sense. But personally, pictures are great. And that's because of the image processing that Google does. Google has this thing of making sure that you take a picture, and it doesn't matter if you're good or bad at taking pictures, it's going to come out great. But it's interesting because I do miss at times of phones coming out and them talking about the camera and actually showing how they're improving, whether it's the glass or the image sensor or whatever chip they're using for photography.
That hasn't been around
Um,
in a long time.
it's been a while. It's been a while
Not even
because
Apple does that
yeah,
anymore.
exactly. And I miss that
Yeah.
because it was fun because you
Yeah.
could actually see the camera getting better, the actual physical camera.
Yeah.
With software getting better, you can literally see the image processing kick in when you take a picture because you'll see the picture in your preview and it looks okay, but you take it, you go to the picture,
It
and then
looks
it
great.
changes and it looks so much better.
Yeah, it
And it's
looks great.
crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but it's fun. It's a good camera system. Um, but that image optimization, that photography system that they have, it's perfected now. It's been a thing since the Pixel 1 came out.
Yeah, yeah. To add on to what David said, Google's always been, Google especially, I will
Right,
say,
right.
they've always been the type of manufacturer where they just want you to take a photo
Mm-hmm.
and it's just going to come out great with their image processing, right? So I actually really like the way the 9 Pro Fold processes images too. They
Mm-hmm.
come out looking really, really sharp. But I think the sentiment still holds true,
Right.
right? Like I referenced the Z Fold 6 review earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I also referenced this aspect of the Z Folds and
That
now
is
the
true.
Pixel Fold 2,
Mm-hmm.
right? In that this is a phone, especially if you decide to go for higher storage options, this is a phone that can get you upwards of $1,900 or $2,000.
Right.
Okay? If it's the most expensive, it's the most premium, it's the most like wild concept of a phone
It's a
that a
whole
company's
package.
that a
Yeah.
company's going to offer, it
Yeah.
should absolutely have the best of the best camera system,
Mm-hmm.
because then at that point in time you're asking people to choose whether or not they just want the traditional smartphone experience or the foldable smartphone
Right.
experience. Not do you want traditional with best camera or foldable with second best camera
Right.
in our lineup,
Right.
right? Especially at this cost, there should really be no compromises for a phone this expensive,
Right.
right? And I think, I can't remember where I saw it, but I'm pretty sure the reason why it doesn't have the visor and the same camera system as the 9 Pro is because of how thin the phone actually is. Like in terms of, we'll get to battery here in a few, but it's thinner this year. So the
Right.
battery even got smaller compared to last year's Fold,
Yeah.
right? So if it's already thinner and the battery's even smaller, then they probably couldn't fit that
Yeah.
visor. But then it just comes down to asking yourself, would you rather have a slightly thicker foldable phone
Right.
to have the best of the best camera experience? And
Hmm.
honestly, I probably would. Like the
Right.
Z Fold 6 is thicker than this phone,
Right.
and it still doesn't
And it still feels
have.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it still feels great, right?
But
But
that
even
one,
then on the
yeah.
Z Fold 6, I'm like, give it the Ultra's camera system, the
Right.
best camera system they have, right? Same
Yeah.
thing here. I want them to have the 9 Pro camera system on here because when you're spending 2000, you shouldn't look at another phone in the lineup and be like, that phone right there has the better camera setup
You
though.
shouldn't have to be missing out. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, on
Yeah.
anything.
You shouldn't be missing out.
100%. But still,
Great
great
pictures.
photos and videos. And I know we just touched on it, but in terms of battery, we're actually dealing with a slightly smaller battery compared to last year's Pixel Fold.
Hmm.
So last year's Pixel Fold just above 4800 milliamp hours.
Right. Oh,
So
sliding.
still
Yeah.
below industry
Just
standard.
a little bit.
Yeah, but this year 4650.
Right.
So just
Interesting.
under like a 200-ish milliamp hour drop in terms of battery. It makes sense
Yeah.
given how thin the phone is, right?
Right.
So
Right.
it's thin, it's fitting in a pretty decently sized square camera module, right? But battery life on the phone has been, I would say, pretty good, right?
Right.
I've had no issues in terms of using the device getting past like 5 hours of screen on time. And obviously, your battery usage is going to vary on how you use it. But even on days where I've been using it for productivity, multitasking a couple of different apps at the same time, I've had no problems getting through at least one full day. Like on days that I'm averaging over 5 hours of screen on time, I think I'm sitting at like 35, close to 40% battery
Yeah.
life left. So it's pretty good. Not great. I would say great would be the 9 Pro XL,
Right. That one did
right?
have a good
That
battery
phone had a
life.
fantastic battery
Yeah.
life, but obviously that phone has less going on, so it
Right.
has room for a slightly larger battery. But
Hmm.
given how many things are happening on this phone, pretty good.
And
Pretty solid battery
I think
life.
that's what it comes down to because people got to remember that there's so many things happening on this phone that when you compare it to a phone that's like the Pixel 9 Pro XL,
Traditional.
it's
Yeah.
it's simple.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. It's traditional. It's simple. It's pretty straightforward. There's only so many things that can happen at once. But with a foldable, there's a lot more going on. There's a lot of sensors. There's a multiple screens going on. That with a combination of the software, I gotta give him credit because it's pretty optimized. We're not only looking at a smaller battery size from last generations. We do have the Tensor G4, but it's still getting great battery life considering everything that's happening. You also got to consider that Gemini is running all the time now. It does have all the AI tools that are coming out with the Pixel line of phones. So Gemini is scanning, listening, reading, watching. That's creepy, but it's happening and it's going. And it makes the experience pretty smooth, which I gotta give him credit because yeah, on paper it's not gonna sound great, and yeah, there's gonna be phones that are gonna get better battery life, but for what you're getting, it's really not that bad.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like David mentioned, right, Gemini is everywhere on this phone, and we talked about a lot of the AI features in our last review over the 9 Pro XL. So if you're looking for more of a deep dive in terms of what Gemini is capable of, or even the
Right.
generative AI features that they have scattered around all of the different apps, you can find that in our review over the 9 Pro XL. We just don't
Yeah.
want to repeat and tack on, right, and add to the video. Oh, I was like,
Yep.
what are you pointing at? But yeah, we don't want to repeat and like add on to the length of the video, right? Whenever we've already covered it pretty comprehensively. But overall, a phone like the Fold is so much fun.
It
It's so much
is. I
fun.
think it's great.
It's so much fun. Yeah, but here's the thing, obviously, right? So there are some downsides, right? You're not going to get the
Hmm.
best camera system. So if you absolutely prioritize camera, it might not necessarily be the phone for you. And obviously, the price is the largest elephant in
Right.
the room, right? No pun intended.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's going to come down to what your use case scenario for a phone like this would be.
Hmm.
If you find yourself totally okay with just the standard slab experience, it's probably not the phone for you. But if you feel like you can get legitimate use, like value for your money out of that larger 8-inch internal display, even if you just love to consume media, like that's me.
Right.
I love opening up the phone, watching YouTube videos, football games, basketball games, right?
Right.
That in and of itself is so much fun because whenever you're done, you can pocket it. You can still use the cover display like
And
a
it's
normal
still
phone,
practical.
right?
Exactly.
And you
Yeah.
can throw it into your pocket and it takes up just as much space as almost any other smartphone that you would replace it with,
Right.
right?
Right.
So it's such a cool concept for second generation. I think Google did fantastic.
I think it was a big
Yeah,
step up.
yeah,
100%. hundred
yeah.
percent. Now, of course, let us know what you think. If you think it's a great phone, let us know. If you don't think, tell us what you think should have been there. Just comment, drop it in the comments, share with your friends, subscribe, like.
I think
Anything
that's
else?
it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you guys
Yeah.
so much for watching. We'll be back with more content, obviously. We'll catch you in the next one.
Till the next one.
Peace.